and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Jenna, could I have roll call, please?
There we go. Okay, Trustee Gergen?
Yes.
Trustee Rhodey?
Here.
Trustee Belt? Here. Trustee Krasovich?
Here.
Trustee Kreiser?
Here.
Trustee Grabowski?
Here.
President Knutson?
Here. Okay, tonight we have two public hearings. Item number 2A is public hearing on proposed ordinance to repeal 40.122 of the municipal code regarding protest petitions. I hereby open up the public hearing. Is there anybody here that would like to make a comment as it relates to that particular item? Okay, well, I'm going to close the public hearing. Nobody wanted to speak. Number 2B, public hearing on proposed ordinance to create sections 40.31410 and 40.31411 regarding bicycle repair, assembly, and/or fabrication with or without outdoor storage or display. I will open up the public hearing for that. Is there anybody here who would like to make a comment as it relates to that item? Okay, I will close the public hearing on that one. Okay, item 3, we have two minutes for special. First one is the approval of minutes of the previous meetings. First one is on the special village board meeting dated May 21st, 2024. I hope everyone's had a chance to look them over. Are there any questions, comments, or corrections as the way they are presented this evening? And if there are none, I'll look for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the special village board minutes for May 21st, 2024.
Second, Krasovich.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Minutes are hereby adopted. The next ones are the minutes of the regular village board meeting dated May 21st, 2024. Again, are there any questions, comments, corrections as the way they are presented this evening? If not, I will look for a motion then.
Motion. Oh, go ahead.
Motion to approve.
Second, Grabowski.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval. Any comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are hereby approved. Item 4, citizen comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to share their opinions with board members on any topic they choose. However, due to Wisconsin open meeting laws, the board is not able to answer questions or respond to your comments. All comments should be directed to the board. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers are asked to please use the podium and state their name and address. Is there anybody in the room that would like to make a comment at this time?
Hello, I'm Roberta Reed, and I live at 530 Cottonmire Drive in the village of Pewaukee. I just wanted to say how impressed I am with the Lake Weed crew for this year. They have been working almost daily, and a lot of attention has been given to the northeast shoreline. They're doing a great job, and I'm hopeful that it'll continue. And if you could please pass along my thanks to David Buckle. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment at this time or statement?
Hi, I'm Leslie Basie, and my address, and I just messed that up, is South 16 West 32183 High Meadow Circle in Delafield. I just really want to introduce myself. I'm running for Waukesha County District Attorney. My boss, Sue Opper, is retiring at the end of this year, and therefore I'm running for her position. Born and raised in Waukesha County, I've lived here my entire life. Both my dad and my uncle were police officers with the City of Waukesha Police Department. And that's how I became interested in prosecuting cases, because I'd go with my dad during the summers and watch him testify. But with the office for 29 years, I've pretty much tried every single type of case. I started in traffic unit, did DV unit for 6 years. I became the head of the domestic violence unit, sexual assault, child abuse, white-collar crime, homicides. Currently, I'm the head of the drug unit. My most serious homicide was the Waukesha Christmas Parade, which I think Village of Pewaukee officers did respond to assist the City of Waukesha Police Department. As head of the drug unit, the last 8 years, I've really taken pride in holding people responsible for drug trafficking, and that's all I do is drug trafficking. We see a lot of drugs coming from Milwaukee into Waukesha County. So I've really taken a hard stance, me and the other attorney that's assigned to the unit, on charging aggressively people who bring fentanyl into our county, cocaine and other drugs. And I think we've done a really great job of educating our judiciary, and we're starting to get prison sentences on these people. As you all read on a probably almost daily basis, the fentanyl coming into our community, and now we're going to start seeing xylazine, which is actually more potent than fentanyl. And unfortunately, Narcan does not reverse the effects of it. So I think we're going to actually see more overdoses coming up. We're just starting to see it now. So I'm running for DA. I care about this county. I've lived here my entire life. I've got the experience to do this job, and I just want to introduce myself to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment or a statement at this time about anything? Okay, then we'll move on. As soon as my screen comes. Item 5, ordinances. Possible action on ordinance number 2024-04, ordinance to repeal section 40.122 of the municipal code regarding protest petitions. You want me to hand this over to? Yes.
Yeah, so this is really just a housekeeping item. As the board is probably aware, because I think it's come up 1 or 2 times recently, there's a procedure in the code that allows for whenever there's a change proposed to the zoning code in the village, the ability for adjacent property owners, if there's a sufficient number, to file a protest petition, which would then trigger a requirement that any zoning change properly protested be approved by a supermajority of yourselves. That was based on a prior state law that was repealed and has now since been replaced with an explicit prohibition on having these types of protest petition procedures. So really what this ordinance is doing is getting us in compliance with state law and repealing the procedure we have on the books. The one note I would make is the Plan Commission did recommend adoption of the ordinance, however, with an effective date of January 1st, 2025 to track when the state law change takes effect. So.
Are there any questions or comments for the attorney? Do I have a motion?
Well, I'm sorry, real quick.
Yes, I'm sorry.
So if passing it tonight, are we saying that it's taking effect then the same as the state and January 1, 2025?
Correct, and
Okay.
you should make that, or whoever makes the motion, make that a part of their motion. The explicit effective date of January 1st, 2025.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2024-04 to repeal section 40.122 of the municipal code effective January 1, 2025.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Is it the village? Yeah, I meant to bring that up as well.
Okay.
Thank you for.
Okay, we have, Bob's okay with the second? Yeah. Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ordinance number 2024-04 is hereby approved. Possible action on ordinance 2024-05, ordinance to create section 40.31410 and 40.31411 regarding bicycle repair, assembly, and/or fabrication with or without outdoor storage or display. Scott, would you like to handle this?
I'll do my best, and you can fill in where I might miss off, Jeff, because I was not at this Plan Commission meeting. This came before the Plan Commission as a request from somebody that was looking at property in the B5 zoning district, interested in possibly relocating a bike repair business. The B5 zoning district does not allow for that at this point, so it was brought before the Plan Commission for consideration of amending the code to allow for bicycle repair, assembly, fabrication with 2 categories. One, excluding outside storage and display, and one including outside storage and display. Slightly different process between the two, with one requiring a conditional use, one just by site plan approval by the Plan Commission. Conditional use would also be approved by Plan Commission, but there's a public hearing component with that. So this was reviewed at the April Plan Commission meeting with a recommendation to the village board for approval.
Any questions? Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2024-05 to create sections 40.314, 10, and 11 regarding bicycle repair, assembly, and/or fabrication with or without outdoor storage or display.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ordinance number 2024-05 is hereby adopted. 6, resolution, we have none. Old business, discussion and possible action to approve a written decision regarding the appeal of Hilton Place LLC concerning their fire and EMS fee assessment. I think I'd like to start with Matt on this one.
So you have the written decision. These are really good. In the packet, and what Attorney Blum has drafted kind of speaks for itself. So if the board has questions or changes, I'm more than happy to address those. The one note of caution I would just provide to the board is the discussion on this really should not be a reconsideration of the decision that's already been made. The substantive decision to grant the appeal was already made. Really what is before you, and the question before you, is affirmation of that decision with a written decision as required by your ordinance. So there was a question posed to me as to whether if those voting nay on the substantive decision to deny could vote to approve this written decision. My response to that was, I think they could do that and the vote would still be consistent because the questions are different. The substantive decision to actually grant the appeal has been made. Really, you are just approving the written decision, substantiating that at this point. So other than that, I'll turn it over to the board to address any questions.
Any questions or comments? If there are none, I'll look for,
I'll make a motion to approve the written decision regarding the
Second, Krasovich.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Do a roll call vote, please.
Okay, trustee Gergen?
Aye.
Trustee Rhodey?
Aye.
Trustee Belt?
Aye.
Trustee Krasovich?
Aye.
Trustee Kaiser?
Aye.
Trustee Grabowski?
Aye.
President Knutson?
No. Okay, item 8A is hereby adopted. Item A, discussion and possible action on proposed park use and retail sales license for Brewfinity Brew Company. Jenna.
We'll get there.
How many meetings is it going to take?
I know, yeah.
Although he started with Jenna, so I was like, wow, he nailed it right from the start.
Right, we
Like,
got it.
and then,
Everybody likes a drinking game.
yeah.
Right. So basically, the law changed with the state where these are now approved through them. So the license would actually come through the state, but it does have to go through the board for an okay. So you're basically kind of looking at the premise, making sure they stay within that area. I did put a map on the end of each of these tables that Nick from the Parks and Rec board gave me. He did say there is going to be signage that says no alcohol beyond this point, and then also staff is going to be around making sure people don't leave that area with the alcohol. And I think he also put all of the dates. Yeah, so all of the dates are on the memos here of where they will be and what times. And then I did also put the premise description in here as well. So this is what Virgo and Brewfinity gave me in the memo, or Nick then gave to me. So, but it's already been approved through Parks and Rec. And they've done this, I think, a couple of years now, I'm not sure. So it's just, has to go through the board now. So if Matt wants to add anything. he
No, I think that's a good recitation.
Okay.
Jenna's correct that the law did change recently and that these retail sale licenses are now something that municipalities will approve. Essentially, you have to follow and use the same standards you use when approving a Class B license. The one caveat being is the village does have some authority if they wish to limit sales of alcohol of products that are not otherwise produced by the brewery. So as to the Brewfinity application, I know they made an application to sell both beer that they produce and then wine that they don't produce. Theoretically, the board, if they wish, could limit them to just selling the beer they produce. I don't know if there's an appetite to do that or a rationale to do that, but just so you know, you have that authority. The other thing that I just wanted to highlight is the premises description and the hours of operation should be consistent, and I think they are with the agreements we put in place with these entities. We've done these in the past, and we do this going forward for sponsorship and use in the park. So we just want to make sure there's consistency with the premises description and the hours of operation between those two items.
Are we handling, I'm guessing we're handling these individually?
Yes, there should be two separate motions or two separate agenda items.
If I could just also mention, Brewfinity is filling the gap that has been left because Beergo has cut down on the number of events that they have in the parks. So it isn't like we're greatly expanding the amount of events in the park. Essentially, they are filling the ones that Beergo is not doing because he has other responsibilities, other jobs that he's doing something else.
And to piggyback on that one, Brewfinity has been a supporter of the Pewaukee Beer Gardens from day one, as well as a large supporter for Park and Rec, as they have been the beer sponsor for Movie in the Park last year, as well as the past 2 years of the Canine Carnival. So they've been very generous with us and with the community and with Park and Rec. So it's not some random outside company that's coming in. They've always been a supporter of Pewaukee.
They also handle a lot of the neighboring beer gardens as well successfully and have for a long time. And just for some background in the wine addition, we actually talked about that at the Park and Rec meeting as an additional add-on that they said was now a part of the license that they could offer. We thought that was a good addition at that meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the retail sales license for Brewfinity Brewing Company.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. I just have one question. Bob, did the Park and Rec approve these?
Yes.
Yes. They did, okay. Normally it states that in there, so I just wanted that for the record. Any other questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Okay, next one on the agenda is discussion and possible action proposed park use and retail sales license for Broken Bat Brewing Company / Beergo. Again,
We just.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you-
Yeah. Oh, sorry, it's basically the same thing. I'm sorry.
I should have said your name, but.
Sorry, I'll get used to that. Yeah, it's basically the same thing. I believe these also got approved at the Parks and Rec, and Nick gave the memo at that, and all the dates and where they will be. And yep, same with just changes in state code. That can't go to staff level, it just needs to go to the board.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed park use and retail sales license for Broken Bat Brewing Company, Hugo.
Second, Kreiser.
Real quick on that one, just also as a background, as this is, I know it's just a formality vote thing, but, or agenda item one, but Broken Bat, the owner is a Pewaukee resident also. So again, another connection to the community that's a partner with the Park and Rec.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Discussion and possible action on scheduling special village board meetings for strategic planning workshops. Scott, do you want to give us the update?
Sure, and trustee Krasovich wins the award for spell check, or
Yeah.
date inconsistency. So the polling was completed, thanks to trustee Krasovich and Cassie. The dates that work the best are Tuesday, June 11th, and then 2 weeks later, Tuesday, June 25th. And I think President Knutson just indicated to me today that he can make the 25th. He will not be out of town as originally thought, so it'd be a full board at that meeting, and then there would only be one absence on June 11th. So trying to coordinate many schedules, that's the best opportunity to get as many as we can. So board's discretion to schedule the special meetings if they desire, and those would be the recommended dates.
On the 25th, I would have a hard stop at 6 o'clock. Just I have another meeting at 6:30 that night. That's all.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have a hard stop on both of those days.
So what time would we be looking to start on the 25th then?
4 to 6 for both dates.
Oh, we need both dates.
Yes.
We're looking at the 25th.
11th and 25th, both
Okay,
dates.
the 11th I'm not available. And the 25th I am.
Okay.
But we need 2 dates.
Yeah, there's two different, two meetings. Craig is looking to cover two different things at the different meetings.
Craig seems to be very demanding for not being on this board anymore.
So those are the days that the most amount of people are.
Yeah, I don't think I was available the 11th either. Is that still
Okay, yeah,
almost?
Okay, yeah, I thought there was just one absence from what I'd seen from Cassie, but then maybe there was the two then.
Is there wiggle room on those absences if that meeting is virtual? Are you available if the meeting is virtual on the 11th?
Not if, unless the restaurant.
I was just gonna say, he's gonna have to have the meeting over a pina colada.
Not really, the 11th.
So yeah, I think Jeff was originally available the 11th, but his schedule was changed for him, that he's not available.
Well, that's a wife's privilege, so I certainly don't have any argument there.
No.
So are we going to schedule just for the 25th, or are we going to try to proceed on the 11th with two absent individuals?
Yeah, I think Craig is looking to have two separate meetings to go over two different areas, but yes, to your question, it's up to the board. If you
When
want
do we start with
I
the
know we need two
25th?
meetings. My question is, are we doing it without two people on the 11th, or are we going to pursue a different date?
That's what I'm saying. Why don't we start with the 25th and come up with something? Is there a deadline on when we have to have this completed by?
As long as you have Craig's interest to continue doing this.
But we can continue on our own.
Right, yes.
Yes.
That's fair.
Yeah, I believe he had indicated that July might be more challenging, but I can get some dates from him for July if you want to look at June 25th and then look into July to see what his availability is.
Because everyone's available the 25th, right?
Yes.
I won't probably be available any of the other days.
I thought my calendar sucked.
Is there a target date that we could maybe determine we'd like to have that completed by? Is it truly driven by Craig, or is there a date that we would like to have these updates in place by that has been identified previously?
We don't have it.
I say we start with the 25th, and then
That sounds good to me.
I would prefer, I mean, especially the first meeting, that the whole board's there as we start getting into it.
I'm here with that.
Do we need to make a motion on that?
Yes, please.
And that was the hard stop at 6, Kelly?
Yes.
I make a motion to approve, or to propose June 25th for the special meeting, for the hours of 4 to 6 for strategic planning.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Discussion and possible action on updated village administrator job description. Scott, do you want to give us a quick rundown on this?
Sure, I apologize, there were two copies of the position description in the packet, one of which was supposed to be red line and strikeout, which didn't carry over from Word to PDF. So you have that copy in front of you this evening, and then a clean copy as well. Reviewed this with President Knutson, Trustee Rhodey, Kelly Goldansky, and myself going through it. The main edits, I would say, are in the supervisory responsibility, just trying to outline specific department head within the village, the contracted, our shared services, and then also the consulting relationships with planner and consultant engineer. And then there are also just some other updates for ADA recommendations that were recommended. We also updated the mathematical skills. Honestly, I don't remember using geometry other than something on a website to help calculate area. So that's referencing back to more pre-IT times. So this is before the board to look at, and if you're comfortable with the proposed updates, to approve the updated position description.
My only question is, what are you lifting that's 75 pounds?
The closest thing would be copy paper boxes.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Because I'm still archaic and I still like reading documents on paper.
I just thought one of the requirements must be able to lift 75 pounds. Scott's in there bench pressing.
Occasionally bottled water for elections.
Gotcha, okay. Those are, yep. Yeah.
Yes.
Bring that down to like 50.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I'm wondering if somebody's going to strike that from, it's like, I got a bad back, I can't be doing this job.
And I think looking through some of these, because it is interesting to look back from when you start to where you're at. It used to be, I think, a combined administrative engineer position. So maybe that's where the geometry and mathematical references were too. And I am not an engineer. And thankfully didn't have to play one.
Obviously the, I don't know, what are we calling it, the subcommittee, search party, whatever, finds it sufficient, and Kelly was also on board with it.
I was on board with it, yeah, Deanna also.
Do I have any motion then?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the updated village administrator job description, unless Scott wants to stay.
Second, Kreiser.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Discussion and direction on possible pursuit of quiet zones. As we know, this has been on the table since 2013, on and off different times, different ideas. And now that we have all this work been done in the past few years, and it seems like we're just putting our heads against the wall on Oakton and Capitol, trying to get that finished. Went and looked over the federal regulations, and Scott and I have been talking a little bit here and there about it, and I thought we should possibly go ahead and look forward to putting in a request to do all 4 zones, which would be from the furthest east to the furthest west, and the 2 in the middle, doing all four. If you look at the handout that was handed out this eve, or last, on your internet, there's one picture that shows stanchions. Now, this is federal, but it's not state, but it is federal. And you'll notice that in one of the pictures, it has stanchions with no concrete at all. The stanchions are there just like we have, but we also have concrete. So I think we should be able to at least say, hey, you know, this is what the feds are saying. Then there's one up in the other area, that other corner that has a 4-quadrant gate, which is over on Kopmeyer, and the other street escapes my name, but they're both, but that one does have a median, but the Kopmeyer one does not. But that meets that, the 4-quadrant gate. We have a 4-quadrant gate down in downtown with a median on one side and not on the other. And then we have a quad gate down here with, on both of them, with pedestrian crossing gates. And down here we have a median and quadrant, there's posts. So I think it's time we at least give it a shot and see what we can get done. Hopefully we can get all 4 done. Hopefully we can get somebody up there in Madison to say, yes, this looks good. We will authorize the quiet zone. We will have to get signage to put up at all the intersections, the train crossings, that these are quiet zones. And the quiet zones do not take away the ability of the engineer to blow the horn if he feels he needs to blow the horn. But during the day and night, he will not be blowing the horn. And so I'm just looking for the board to decide if they feel they would like to go move and forward with that. Yes, Heather.
Last week I watched a webinar with the Federal Railroad Administration, and they have a number of grants that they have available. And my question is, let's say we apply for this quiet zone and they say, we need XYZ that wasn't completed. And previously we didn't get these things completed because the project ran out of funds. And so would it behoove us to apply for those federal grants to finish the job so that we have dotted all of our i's and crossed all our t's, or just go ahead and apply?
Well, I think the one issue that I can think of right away is that on the Oakton side here, the Railroad Commission, is that what can I call it that in Madison, or? Yeah. They said that the stanchions are okay, but they want a concrete stanchion. They want the stanchions on the concrete. So they want a permanent concrete out, which would require us tearing up the road and redoing all of that. We said, what about if we just put a rubber matting down like they have in a couple other areas that I took pictures of, and have the stanchions on? And we're waiting for that, which would be cost, which would lower the cost considerably. So yes, I agree, we could probably apply for those, but if we go ahead and then they tell us, yeah, you're gonna have to do that, I think that would be the time to apply for those versus applying for them right away. And
Well, one of the things that they said in this webinar when you are making the application, and also I forwarded the email address to Scott of the people who talked to about this, because it seemed like they would be willing to be involved with the process and just determining whether we should or shouldn't apply for it. But also, they said it was very important to document as much as you possibly can. And of course, I thought of this after I had been sitting there waiting for the train to go by, and there were all these, all the different streets here were stopped, and nobody could move anywhere. And so, I think we need to, there's something.
Jim?
So I guess it kind of piggybacks off of what Heather was going with there. My issue with everything we've dealt with the railroad, it seems like an archaic, it almost seems like the Menards mail-in rebate type thing. Like there's got to be a more efficient manner here. And because it seems like our only option is usually like send a letter and then wait to see if they get the letter and then they respond. And then like a year later, we're like, oh, we still haven't heard back from about that letter. Should we send another letter? So what my thought is, because we do pretty much have most of the, if not all the boxes checked, based upon the handouts there in terms of the upgrades. But I do remember hearing previously that there was concern still regarding the proximity of the train crossing to the downtown beachfront and how busy the lakefront is and Lakefront Park. And my fear is, and hopefully Matt or Scott or someone could answer this, is this a one-shot deal that if we send in for a quiet zone and they go, we got some concerns over that proximity to the beach, no deal. Now keep in mind that I'm assuming that's going to take about 1.5 years for these letters to go back and forth. And then is that our option? We're done. Or is it, can we come back with something else? With that being said, can we throw out options right from the start to say we would like a quiet zone if there are concerns regarding proximity to a bustling downtown? Do we have the options for quiet hours, be it, starting from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m., which is obviously the largest concern of people that live around the crossings, but low pedestrian time. Can we front load the request, or do we have multiple bites at this apple?
I believe you can make an application for a quiet zone for all the crossings. There's the site visits that aren't. Been a few years since I've looked at this. Then there's the quiet zone. There's a crossing evaluation process. We got a representative from the county, county highway department, the state office of commissioners of railroad, the DOT, village engineer. So there's multiple agency representatives that go and look at each crossing and then evaluate, do you need any additional safety measures, or is what you have there enough? I'm going to hazard a guess that with the sealed corridor upgrades that were made, there shouldn't probably be any additional safety measures needed because you've got the pedestrian gates where needed. But again, that's not a guarantee. And then as part of that process, they can decide, okay, and that's where I remember seeing the concern regarding a lot of pedestrians. They could end up saying that no to the downtown crossing, but yes to the other 3 crossings. So I don't think it's a one and done.
Because from an outsider's perspective, it seemed like that, in terms of the Oakton crossing, when we lost that left turn and we're like, well, can we go back and propose this? And it was like, well, we're still waiting to hear what they think about our original request, from months ago. And it's a very slow process, the wheels of government. And so that's what I'm saying is, does it behoove us to try to front load it to say, hey, this is what we want, but rather than waste more time and you say, no, and then us have to come back and waste more time and say, well, just give them multiple options to start, to say, we would like this, but if you don't find it within, your powers to grant that, what about this? And just get that out in front so that to expedite the process.
I would think it probably makes sense just to go for the full ask on the crossings for all, the quiet zone for all 4 crossings.
And if they deny that, then we still have the ability to reapply.
Yeah, I think there's going to be the communication throughout the entire process, which is the site visits to evaluate each of the crossings and have the dialogue throughout that time, and then time will determine how many, if any, are approved ultimately as quiet zones.
Okay, because it's always seemed very black and white and similar to our board where we can't talk about anything that's not on the agenda. Like, that's what I'm waiting for them to say. If we come back and say, well, what about quiet hours? Like, sorry, that's not on the application, you know, so.
I don't, yeah, I hear you on that. I don't know that we would want to point out that it's, you know, that this one might be dicey.
Well, they already pointed it out to us, though, didn't they?
What, the comment on the pedestrian or the number of people is an observation that I had just looking through the information on, is one of the potential limiting factors as to whether or not a quiet zone may or may not be granted.
Okay. I was under the impression they had pointed that out already.
So if I'm all for the quiet zones, but if it's based on site visits and things like that, do we know how long that process might take? And are we best served to be having site visits in the middle of summer when we could potentially have them in a couple months where it's a vastly different landscape?
It's not terrible idea.
Yeah, I've not been through the process before, so I don't know how long it takes to get from starting the application process to the point of the crossing evaluations. I would suspect that they would know based on a beach, and that beaches attract people, whether it's a winter visit or a fall or spring or summer visit. And with the activities that are down along the lakefront too, the beach party, the waterfront Wednesdays, which are right next to that area where you've got large numbers of people, those are things I think that they would observe or know about. If the counties involved are going to be generally familiar with the area.
Chris?
Can you help me understand where things are with our current requests? Because we have filed current requests, to my understanding, with the state to address all 4 crossings. Is that correct?
No, the last issue on the table is still related to the Oakton Avenue crossing, where there was the request to do the quick curbs versus the concrete raised medians. Corresponded with DOT. They have not heard anything back as of last week. Their read into that is that the OCR is wanting of the raised concrete median in place of the bollards that have been in place.
And maybe this is how government works, but are we just to assume that no answer means they don't approve what we've done so far? Are they not required to respond to us in some capacity?
This is the OCR, and they're under the governance of the Office of the Commissioner of Railroads.
So, are the feds above them?
Well, there's the Federal Railroad Administration. I don't know what jurisdiction the FRA has over a state agency other than making sure that the federal rules for crossings are followed.
I mean, all we know is we have no say in any of it. We can ask, but, you know, these, you know, we keep trying to figure out who's at the top of this food chain, and, you know, and it was interesting in this webinar because lots of people were dealing with the same thing.
This all excuse me. This all started when we did not receive, but a grant was given to the Wisconsin Department of Transportation to redo all the intersections so that there was safe crossings for vehicular traffic and some pedestrian crossings.
Yes, I do remember.
And that's when that started, and then that happened, and everything was fine, going along very well. The crossings were done, and the final approval was maybe the final approval was being looked at when a car stopped on the railroad tracks down here and wanted to make a left turn, or somebody wanted to make a left turn and a car behind them stopped, and that's when all the posts had to go up and the medians had to go up and no left turns and all that came about. So then that opened up a whole new bunch of worms. Unfortunately, all the money was spent. The DOT spent all the money building everything the way that railroad wanted it, and now it's a two-pronged. The railroad says, well, DOT, you have to do this, and the DOT says, well, no, it's not our problem. We don't have that. The village should pay for it. And we're going, no, because we never even authorized any of this. We had no control of what you guys did. It was all up to you. And we just had to take whatever you told us to do, or that you did. So now it's, you know, we talked back and forth, Dan, when he was here, made different conversations with the DOT because he knew somebody up there. And got to a point where the DOT actually said, well, if it comes down to the village, or the DOT has to put in the concrete stanchions. I believe the comment was made that we could get them done and then the DOT would reimburse us, but I'm a little concerned about doing that.
Right, there would be a state municipal agreement entered into before any funds would be expended, outlining that the village would do the work and the DOT would reimburse. That would be in black and white, because DOT had indicated that they don't have authority to do work on local roads, thus the state municipal agreement, which we did enter into for a section along West Wisconsin Avenue, because they were doing work within the limits of the crossing, and then there was work to the east or south towards the downtown area that was blacktop. That was part of a state municipal agreement. We actually paid for that work, but they included that in their contract. Any work with regard to this, the Quick Curb example at this time, because that was the most recent dialogue, is that we would enter into an agreement with the DOT. We'd know what the pricing is. They would agree to reimburse the village that amount after the work was completed, and then we'd send them the invoices. They would reimburse us. Where they would get that money from to make that payment would be up to DOT staff. They'd have to find a grant fund somewhere or something within the state agency budget to reimburse that.
And that's where my concern is. If it's taking this long for everything else to happen.
I understand. What I'm thinking is perhaps we can create some sort of a timeline describing what's happened in this process. Between the two of you, right, tonight, you done it. Perhaps Jenna can transcribe that in some way, and we can create a drafted email that we can send to the Federal Railroad Administration documenting this and asking how they think we should proceed with this. If there's grant money in order to create these stanchions, concrete stanchions that need to be done in order for this to happen. But it seems to me like right now they were inferred that they had a lot of money to give away for this. And maybe if they do, we could use that in order to get this project completed, is what I'm thinking.
I love that. But as a point of clarity, because I'm still trying to really riddle my way through this, I understand now that the state doesn't want to move on this because we have yet to put in concrete stanchions, regardless of who pays for it. Is the suggestion that we try to acquire approval through the federal government in attempt to avoid putting in those concrete stanchions?
I feel more like we try and get the feds to pay for the concrete stanchions.
Right, but the fact that this has even come up tonight, I think, is related to a desire to avoid putting in the concrete stanchions.
Well,
Or desire to avoid paying for them, is it?
the meeting I had with Scott this morning, I asked him to reach out to the OCR in Madison and see if we can set up a meeting or discussion on this topic so we can get something from them, why it's taking so long for them to approve what we have now, when federally in the booklet, it is approved for a quiet zone.
Without concrete stanchions.
Without the concrete.
So that was what I was aiming
Right.
for. Okay.
So but right now Scott's got a lot on his table, so hopefully next week he'll be able to take a minute or two and get a hold of them, and then he can send an FYI out to all the board members to let us know what's going on.
Can we make the application for the quiet zone? All 4 zones, you know, the rest of these pieces, the concrete versus the thing, that's something that might be able to be solved during the process. But what we really need to get moving is the application for the quiet zone.
Correct, because if there's any deficiencies that are noted as part of the crossing reviews, those would be documented, and then those would need to be addressed before there's any quiet zone approval granted, if there's going to be one.
And that's the reason I wanted to put it on tonight, see if the board was wanting to move forward with getting that application in and still work on getting all of everything, whatever they feel they need to get done.
But that is assuming that we would hear back from them on deficiencies opposed to their standard process, which is just not responding, and for us to assume then that they're not in favor.
But the review would be completed by, again, representatives from multiple agencies, so it's not just going to be left at the desk of the OCR.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
That's my concern, is that like I said, we've had very bad luck getting responses, so I didn't know how this application process would differ from typical correspondence that go unresponded to.
If we have problems, maybe we could reach out to our state representatives.
That is what I was going to say. I'm not in a space where I'm comfortable accepting a lack of response. I think that is unacceptable. So I'd be happy to be engaged along with my fellow trustees to go ahead and remind them of the responsibility to respond to us in a timely fashion.
Well, could you give us a week before you do anything, just to see if Scott can get something?
So there's,
Yes, of course.
so are we,
Thank you.
you wanting a motion to table this?
No, this is just a discussion and
No action.
no action.
Oh, okay.
He knows I have
So
the
we're
email
not,
half written.
we're not proceeding with the application then?
Okay, item F then, discussion and possible action on request for use of village logo. Scott?
Sure, in the packet, you have a copy of an email we received from a costume designer who's working on an indie film project. The information's before you. His interest is in using the village logo on a t-shirt of the main character. I've never had a request like this before, so this is a first.
My goodness.
All I know about what this is what you have in the email.
Maybe I was expecting like a Hallmark movie and a Christmas tree farm or something, but
Or is this from perhaps something about a screenwriter from Pewaukee who made it big?
Well, it is. The indie
That's-
film is based in
yeah.
Pewaukee.
Yeah, which actually has happened, you know?
Well,
Does,
I guess I look at it pre-advertising, hopefully. It's good advertising.
Well,
I'd
depending
love-
on the content.
Yeah, I'd love
And,
to see-
and the personality of the
Right.
character who's going to be wearing it.
that's what I was worried about.
I'd love to see an outline. I'm sure they won't want us to see the script in its entirety, but they should have an outline that we should be able to review just to
Well,
provide a little comfort that
the-
this
the-
here.
I would say the other part of it is
this
it
is
says
not an outline.
we
I
start.
Like the premise.
It says we start filming in 3 weeks, and this was sent 2 weeks ago.
I
So
didn't notice that.
You know, you talk about a logo on a shirt.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not talking about making Pewaukee murder capital of the world. It's-
they're already using the
It
name.
gives us a description of what the movie is. It sounds innocent enough. I don't think we have to try to make this into something bigger than what it is, other than a logo on a shirt.
Right.
I would still, if you're inclined to approve this, there should still be some sort of just basic license and use agreements, just setting forth some basic terms and conditions.
And I would still support the idea of an outline. I think it's true that this film is probably going to be lovely and delightful and comedic, but I think that's something very reasonable for us to request.
So what I'm kind of hearing is that maybe Matt should put together something that says, yes, you can use this, but you cannot use it if this is what's going to be portrayed in the movie.
Or maybe you can use it based on approval of an outline.
That
I mean, an agreement I would put together would speak to just the basic terms and conditions on how they could use the logo. And I would assume, and I would, based on the discussion here, put in some language that it can't be used in disparaging or,
Right.
we'll work on the
Right.
language, but things that would disparage the character or the reputation of the village, we can certainly put that in there. Along with, standard terms, but if you are inclined to make an approval on him using this, just make it subject to an agreement put together by the village attorney.
I'll make a motion to,
Can I ask-
go ahead.
Would there be any financial requests for the
No,
use
because
of those?
then they'll just pick Sussex and cut us out. Yeah.
Indie film, so they don't have any.
I was just gonna say, I'll make a motion to approve the use of the village logo, dependent on the lawyer's agreement.
Contingent on a term
Contingent.
of use agreement.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
contingent on a license and use agreement prepared by the village attorney.
Contingent on a license and use agreement from the village attorney.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Item 9, citizen comments. This is an opportunity to citizens share their opinions with board members on any topic they choose. However, due to Wisconsin open meeting laws, the board is not able to answer questions or respond to your comments. All comments should be directed to the board. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers are asked to please use the podium and state their name and address for the record. Is there anybody here that would like to make a comment? Ladies? Yes.
It's me again. My name is Roberta Reed, and I'm at 530 Kottmeyer Drive in the village of Pewaukee. After listening to all of this, I'm hopeful that things are going to actually go through and that the application will happen. But let me just go through my spiel that I was preparing before. Anyways, I've lived at my location since 1990, and the subject of quiet zone has been around since I arrived, and I assume prior to that. I have emails dating back to 2013, as you mentioned, through 2014, mainly from David Horning, with his and many others' attempt to get a quiet zone in the village and the city. Somehow I fell off of that email chain, and then I found out also that Mr. Horning moved out of the area. But I do have a couple of handouts that I will share with you after my allotted time, just to go through the steps that have happened. This one is from October of 2013, where there has been a diagnostics team regarding the quiet zone. That's when it started. And then the second one is from October of 2014. That is a flyer that David Horning distributed to all the residents. It basically explains very clearly the reason for a quiet zone and what needs to be done to get one. And then the final one is from August of 2019, where there's an article describing the CP Railway projects, including that the railroad crossing projects would bring the crossings within 5% of meeting federal guidelines for quiet zones. And then, of course, unfortunately, COVID happened, and there were delays caused by that. But since then, all the crossings, like you were mentioning, have been finally updated. The one in Oakton, I thought was updated enough, but now there's apparently this question about cement. But left turns have been eliminated because of the signage and the barriers. So basically, before that cement comment, all crossings are compliant. So I guess I just have to ask, when can we expect a quiet zone to actually happen? The surrounding communities have a quiet zone, yet Pewaukee does not. So I ask that you please proceed with the quiet zone application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, give him to Jenna, please.
I will distribute. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our new clerk. Is there anyone else that would like to make a state? Yes, ma'am.
I am Carrie Ashley, 544 Kottmeyer. We purchased in 2018, and I had all sorts of comments I wanted to make, but it sounds like the board is on board with the quiet zone. It's not a matter of if, it sounds like it's a matter of when. I just tried to do some research online today, and there are two different listings that I found from 2022 and 16 that list tons of towns and communities that have quiet zones. Sounds like you guys are concerned about the proximity to our beach and our special events. Some of these towns like Wauwatosa, train tracks sit, they have a huge downtown area that's popular, has tons of people visiting at a much different level than Pewaukee. And I'm sure there's other towns that have the same circumstances. This can't be new to the railroad. Also with Oakton, every intersection is different, presents different problems, so I don't want to compare. But I lived in Pleasant Prairie right near the railroad tracks. They have these orange rubber kind of things sticking out of concrete, or sticking out of the road. There's no concrete base on that. Now, is it a different type of intersection? Probably. Kind of goes around a curve, but it's not a three-way. And same thing, I know I was driving around, I'm not that familiar with this area yet. I want to say Heartland, and I thought I saw some of those things sticking up out of the asphalt. Again, every circumstance is different, but why go to all the extra work to think that they want you to put in concrete? What they wanted back then might not be what they want now. You say, let's apply for a grant. How long did it take you to get this last grant? You started working on it 12, 13 years ago or whatever, wherever that money came from. It's a long process. So I would just urge you to put the application in and see what happens. All of the surrounding communities have done this work. Waukesha, Sussex, Wauwatosa, Heartland, Oconomowoc Lake, and Delafield and Shaniqua on 517 have something online, and it might not be an application, but it's some kind of legal document that they just applied. So they're right in the process. Maybe talk to someone on their end about how to fill the paperwork out, how to go about getting the legal documentation in, I guess, in order so that it can get approved. And I guess that's probably it. So thank you.
Thank you very much. No? Okay. Thank you for your comments. We're going to move on to item 10 then, which is a closed session. The Village Board of the Village of Pewaukee entered a closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute Section 1985 1E for the It's empty. And we're ready to go? Okay, item 11, possible action on T-Mobile lease agreement. Do I have anybody that would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the T-Mobile lease agreement as presented to the board.
Second, Krasovich.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item 12, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, Kaiser.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are hereby adjourned.